if you look here, we have a look button. And if you look at the text down here, when I use look, it tells me there's a large crack in the wall here. And so that's the beginning of, so inspect crack. You see something glistening on the ground. So yeah, like Nicodemus said, this is essentially like the old repop text-based games. So we've called them mud object, but it's basically text-based interaction. Let all the mobs buff up. In the future, that should be limited by proximity, so it's not so spammy, I guess. Yeah, so what we want to do is increase the amount of interaction that you can have with the world without breaking the bank, in terms of like art and animation and all that other stuff. And so, and then we're gonna tie like this look and inspect, and then other sort of other interactions. We currently have things like pry. And so it'll know, basically you can pry if you've got a weapon or item that can be used for prying, things like that. We're just talking, or I just wrote up sort of a feature request to change it to be a bit more generic so that it's kind of a more generic use, and so that we can mix nouns and verbs a little bit more freely within the system. But it allows us to basically take actual items that you have in your inventory, check to make sure that you can do the interaction, potentially have them on your cursor. That's the way it's set up, but it's not currently working like that 100% at the moment. And then set up interactions where you can do fairly complex things like whether it be puzzles or pry the bottom out of a box and then type in a combination or use a special key or drop in a gem into a slot or do things in certain orders, all of that stuff. So we've got the foundation for that in. Oh, and what I was saying is then we'll link that into various perception types as well. So if you're a rogue, you'll be able to notice certain things that others won't. If you have certain skills like masonry or survival or whatever, there may be some opportunities for us to do that. So yeah, we're already using it in at least one quest, and then, like I said, Nick put some in here. We can also use it for simple things like you can read a plaque or get more details about a statue or whatever, right? So there's a large crack here. Inspect crack. You see something glistening on the ground on the other side. There you go. Do you have a way to tie in the inspect commands required to move a quest forward, or will it just be an option? BDC Retro, we've already got a quest in that actually uses one. Because of the way that we build quests, it's not like a series of flags. A lot of the way that we're currently implementing quests is very old school in that it's either a initial interaction that's triggered by a dialogue, but when we do that, we can't control the prerequisite steps. Or it's, you have an item, you turn it in, interact with the NPC is going to tend to give you an item, oftentimes a container like a bag or a pouch or something like that for you to put other items in and hit combine. And then you go out and get more items. And so it daisy chains you through the quest series, and then it ends, and that's that. We'll naturally have faction requirements, level requirements, class requirements, and things like that. But we're holding off on using like sort of behind the scenes flagging as much as possible initially, just to see if we can recreate that feel. And yeah, we can definitely make it so that you interact with the quests that I'm mentioning. You have to have 2 items that an NPC gives you in order to be able to complete the interaction, which gives you a new item, which then you take back. Sna said, I like the inspect feature. Yeah, we're going to do even more with it. So there's going to be a lot of, for those of you that are new here, there will be a lot of text-based interaction, like an old text-based RPG. So this is sort of the initial steps of it. So it looks for items that you have in your inventory or in your hand. So it'll be expanded a bit to be a little bit more versatile, but like you can see here, it'll work with different perception skills and stuff as well. So I click look, it says you're in an antechamber. A large stone statue rests in an alcove. English is hard. Inspect statue. There's a plaque on this statue. And I should just be able to inspect plaque. Yeah, there we go. So things like read, currently it's all just based off inspect, but in the future, I think we're going to make it a little bit more generalized so that we can just, as designers, put in verbs and nouns and let you go to town. But this lets you like use keys in weird ways or use objects as keys. Like if the statue is missing a, the statue has a has a ruby in one eye socket and the ruby's missing from the other eye socket, and you find a ruby, then you could, basically insert ruby into eye socket, and then that would do that. And so, and the system triggers things, like it can give you items, it can move you places, that can if it's not currently doing it, it'll cast spells, it'll trigger events, unlock things. So yeah, so we've been calling these mud objects, so just sort of based off of the text-based muds. Yeah, there's a lot of potential here. We've got a few of them already integrated and in some quest stages and stuff, so got some bugs to fix there, but it's going to be really cool. Epitaph of the last Wormsbane. Our name, our place, and our tomb, all forgotten. The brief race of time well and patiently won. The things we have died for, let them be our story, not the missteps that rent us undone. How we are undone. So, yeah, this gives us a lot of flexibility as designers to do some interesting stuff. You'll notice, on some of the merchants, you may find things like rope or grappling hooks or all sorts of weird items that you'll be like, well, how is this going to be used? And I picture the use cases kind of stemming through systems like this. Because in theory, we can do pretty much anything with tech, and it saves us a lot of production time and art costs and things of that nature. And it, again, it leans into the retro feel that we're going for. So we're not playing around when we say we want it to be retro and nostalgic, but modern, Yeah, because I mean, as a designer, say the art's already done here, we could link one of these objects to a perception skill that only a rogue has, or maybe somebody that's been, skilling up their, something like a weird skill like architecture, masonry. And, we could have that then either be something that you've actually have to actively click, or maybe with a high enough skill, perception triggers it and you're like, oh, okay. I get a notification that, one of the skulls in the corner has, you notice a shimmering in an eye socket, right? And then from there you interact, blah, blah, blah. So be cool to add stuff into old zones later. Later on too, for some higher level quests, etc. Yep. And since it's all data driven and it's all, by then we're used to reading instead of just looking, then it gives us a ton of flexibility to just drive everything in data. Like the interactions that you just saw there were basically, this easy for us to set up. And so I'm going to be adding another one for the quest that we were testing earlier, and it's going to have a specific condition. So the location will be easy enough to find, but then you've got to figure out what's the condition that needs to be met for it to work, right? Yep. And that condition can be linked to day-night cycle. It can be linked to weather. It can be linked to time of day, lunar cycle, all of that stuff. Specific triggers that set conditions in the area before. Sna said, yeah, I saw you modifying quests for the cleric starter quests, and it seemed cool. You could just add like one line of reward item name. Yeah, it's very easy to work with, and allows us to crank stuff out pretty quickly.